What is going on, everybody? My name is Kyle Matson. I'm 19 years old, and this channel is simply to document my progress as a young entrepreneur. For those of you who don't know my story, I grew up in a small town called Soldotna, Alaska, and when I was just about to turn 18 years old, I, with my parents' permission of course, moved out here to Tampa, Florida in order to pursue door-to-door solar sales. And in this video, all that I'm going to do is I'm going to recap what I've done in the past year, where I'm at now, where I want to be in the next 6 months to a year, and what I'm going to do to get there. So moving out to Florida, I had extremely high expectations for myself. I actually made it a goal that I wanted to make my first million in my first year, which looking back was extremely naive. Although it's highly improbable to do that, it's very unlikely, and the reality is you have to put in a lot more sacrifice and time in order to acquire the skill set required to make that kind of money, especially in this industry. And part of the problem was I feel like I was somewhat overpromised on what everything was going to look like and how everything kind of panned out. So I knocked doors. I did it for 13 months roughly, and I generated around $40,000 in my first 12 months. That's profit. So decent money for an 18-year-old, more money than I've ever made in my life, but it came to the point where I was getting really burnt out. And the biggest thing of all was I was stagnating. My numbers were not increasing. The cash flow was very inconsistent, and I was just so frustrated, and I couldn't figure out exactly what I should do and where I should go. You know, I said in a recent video, and Ethan, if you're watching this, you're going to hate me for saying it again, but the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And I felt like I was just running in circles and spinning my wheels and not really getting anywhere with door-to-door. Knocking doors is brutal. I'm a man that likes efficiency. I felt like there was a lot of wasted time with just driving, going to area, going to meetings, and just you're not even spending that much time actually knocking. There's so much energy that goes into other facets of the job that it's really hard because you only have so much mental battery and bandwidth to work with. Knocking doors for 4 to 8 hours a day and hitting 80 to 100 plus doors takes a lot of mental resilience and mental bandwidth. And I didn't like the constant rejection. And it's not that I'm someone who can't handle rejection. It's just that I genuinely felt a little bit bad because in door-to-door, it's a very intrusive interaction. You're literally going to people's homes, their place of sanctuary, their place of privacy, where they spend all of their downtime. It's where they eat, it's where they sleep, it's where they shit. And you're knocking at their front door, interrupting their day. You're trying to get them to listen to you, trust what you're saying is accurate, and then commit to a time for a salesperson to come back to their home and sell them on something. And let me tell you, people get livid. I've had people yell at me, cuss me out, try to fight me, and I've even had guns pulled on me. It was always in the back of my mind when I was knocking, 80 to 100 doors a day and getting very inconsistent results that I was like, man, like this has got to be a bottleneck. There's got to be a better way to do this. And I brought the idea up to myself and to some of the guys on the team, like, do people do this over the phone? Do people do this through online? And I mean, let's be real. The majority of people that are in the solar industry, they do it door to door. So it's not that it doesn't work, but I was just frustrated with how inconsistent everything was. And when I brought the idea up to one of our leaders, he's actually telling me, he's like, we actually have been looking into different options, right? Because I'm not the only one who is stagnating. But he told me that they were in contact with somebody who runs an operation that is completely virtual and that they're looking promising as far as numbers and production go. So I ended up getting in contact with this individual. He runs a dealer out of California, but it's basically out of anywhere in the world because it's virtual. And they basically run an online calling center where they do it all over the phone. They set over the phone, they call over the phone, they close over the phone, and the numbers are looking good. It's predominantly in the California market, which has very high margins and is, quite frankly, a much better product for that market than it is here in Florida. Eventually, it got to the point where I was like, okay, I want to try this. So I got on the phone with the CEO of this dealer and this company and basically came to the conclusion that I was going to try it for a month. And there was an onboarding fee, it was a commitment, but I was kind of desperate. The first 3 weeks were actually really tough. It was actually a pretty big learning curve, transitioning from lease to PPA and overall just learning how to call, how to pitch over the phone, the conversation structure, and the hardest part was getting people to actually sit because it's a lot easier to ignore a phone call than somebody knocking at your door. So I didn't get a close at all for the first 3 weeks. And on the third week, the last day of the third week, I want to say, I got my first close, and it was a huge moment of relief. From the perspective that I'm in right now, transitioning to virtual was a godsend. I think the best part about selling online is it's so much less intrusive. It's a lot less intrusive to call somebody on the phone instead of showing up at their front door. And one of the things that I love most about the virtual so far is the consistency and quality of the leads that we're getting. The way that they generate leads, they actually have a social media marketing machine where at some point people fill out information on our website because they were at least somewhat interested in the potential savings that solar could provide. This gives us so much more leverage to work with. We're calling these prospects back because they filled out info on our website. We have their name, their address, their utility provider, their average bill. It's just so much information as opposed to when you're knocking a door, you have none of that. Virtual completely eliminates the prospecting process. I sit at my desk at my computer and I wait for calls to come in. And granted, sometimes it is pretty slow, but it isn't always. And in between calls, I can spend that time studying past calls. I can spend that time listening to a book or catching up on tasks that I need to complete. It's just a much more efficient method, and it takes a lot less mental energy. What's great is that when a call comes in, I can drop whatever I'm doing and I can focus fully on the one thing that matters, selling. Not to mention, it's also easier to stay dialed on your follow-up game. Almost half of the closes that I have at this point have actually come from my follow-ups. Another advantage of selling over the phone is that there are much faster feedback loops. All of our calls are recorded, and anytime I'm not getting the results that I'm wanting, I can listen back to a call and I can find out what worked and what didn't. And even if I can't pinpoint it, I can schedule a one-on-one with one of our closers or one of the managers and have them dissect it for me and give me the information that I need to progress. With that being said, I've been in virtual for a little over a month and a half. And although I had a rough 3 weeks, at this point, I've generated 9 deals closed and over $25,000 in estimated commissions. One thing that I am a bit concerned about, in that I've only been doing the job for a month and a half, I haven't got paid yet. And the first month that I did door to door, I got 6 closes and I was hyped. I thought I was gonna make so much money. One ended up installing, and it took me about 3 months to get my first paycheck of around $2,500. And at that time, I had run my finances down to about $600 in my bank account. So I was freaking out. And I don't want to say this out of arrogance or pride, but after being in the company for just over a month and a half, I've become the highest producing setter in the company. I am an extremely ambitious person, and I have very big dreams for the things that I want to do in the short time I have here on Earth. With that being said, I came to the conclusion when I was 17 years old that the first game I need to beat is the money game, because that is what allows you the time freedom and the location freedom and just the overall freedom and resources to pursue other things with much more curiosity and intensity. I also understand that I am 19, which is not young, by the way. There's people that are my age doing a lot more money than I am. I'm broke, relatively speaking. But what I'm getting at is I have next to no obligations. I don't have a wife, I don't have kids, I don't have to go to school, I don't have all these things that I have to sacrifice and go spend my time doing. So there's no reason why I shouldn't just work my face off for the next 3 to 5 years so I can build a foundation for the rest of my life. One of my favorite Bible verses is Proverbs 24:7, and it says, "Prepare your work outside, get everything ready for yourself in the field, and after that, build your house." So I want to sacrifice now so that I don't have to do it in the future when I'm sacrificing the things that actually matter. So my goal right now is I want to get to my first million as fast as possible. And I'm talking about $1 million profit generated within a 12-month period. This could take a year. This could take 5 years. I don't really care. But I have a great incentive to just go all in. And to be honest, I don't know exactly where I'm going to end up in business. I just know the direction that I'm heading in. I do know that I want to build something that I can automate, something that eventually I can have the freedom to step back from in order to optimize for other areas of my life without feeling like I've fallen behind. I will say that business is something that I'm passionate about. I'm obsessed with building phenomenal products, creating an extraordinary customer experience, lead generation, marketing, sales, advertising, systems, automation, delegation, all of these different things, they get me going. One of the people I look up to most in the business space, his name is Wiz Utopia, and he said on a podcast, he said, 80% of business is recurring and automated tasks. The rest is testing out new stuff and then finding out ways to automate the new stuff. So for now, I need to master the art of selling and get to my first million as fast as possible. And here's how I'm going to get there. I have exactly 15 days from this point till May 19th when I go back up to Alaska for the summer. In between that time, I want to generate a bare minimum of $10,000 in estimated commissions solely from appointment setting. And in the meantime, study closing so that when I get to Alaska, I can transition fully to self-genning and eventually closing for other people. Another thing I'm putting a lot of emphasis into moving forward is personal brand and also just documentation. So this entire thing that I'm doing right now, making videos for YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all of these different platforms, and personal brand. I found it's going to be extremely important. It encompasses the two highest forms of leverage that we have at our disposal, namely code and media. And I would love to build a community of young men and young ambitious individuals who are just have big goals and big dreams and are faith-based, and people that resonate with me as a person, and people that I can be accountable to, and people that I can share my story with, and that I can provide value to, and eventually can provide value back to me through monetization and other forms of leverage. Once I get back to Alaska, I also want to start putting a big emphasis on recruiting, and not even that big. I want to bring on 3 to 5 guys that are extremely committed and are willing to put in the time and the work that is necessary. And I'm very excited to do this, because as much as I am passionate about learning and improving certain skill sets, I love teaching. And this is actually a conclusion that I came to after spending 3+ years as a teenager coaching gymnastics, something that I loved. And when I start bringing guys on, I'm going to create a very dialed video training system where I can literally just copy and paste the sauce of what makes a great appointment setter and teach it to these people, and just give them every SOP that is required in order to be a high producing setter. One thing I've learned is that teaching something is by far the best way to learn. And I'm very excited to break down my methods to its fundamental constituents and overall increase my skill set as a communicator and as a salesperson. And getting guys under me is going to incorporate the fundamental pillar of leverage on which all wealth has been created. And that is people, namely their time, their energy, and their effort. In essence, I can basically duplicate myself in order to maximize my earning potential while helping the customer and the representatives that I'm teaching. So for the next 6 months, I'm going to go all in, and I want to create anywhere from $200,000 to $300,000 in estimated commissions. And to do that, I need to get around 50 closes in the pipeline and have a decent amount of those installed. So that's the plan for the next 6 months. And I don't want to plan too far ahead. I don't know what everything's going to be like in 6 months, but I can't help from just having ideas on exactly where I'm going to pivot after that, because inevitably when summer comes to an end, sales is going to slow down. Summer's the best time to sell. And I might want to take a little bit of a step back after really just grinding, maybe take a month or 2 to go travel the world. I don't know. We'll see what we'll do. But I'm very aware of shiny object syndrome, and I don't want to be the guy that jumps ship at the first sight of an opportunity that looks to be better. With that being said, I'm very fascinated by the e-com business model, and I know a lot of guys that are doing, not personally, but I know a lot of guys that are doing multiple millions a month in profit. The e-com business models I'm aware of are drop shipping, Amazon FBA, selling info products and courses, and then as of lately, TikTok Shop's been blowing up. I actually just got off the phone today with a friend that I have who's been doing TikTok Shop for a little over 6 months now, and he's about to break his first $100,000 month profit, and that's insane to me. I love the idea of being able to learn all these other aspects of business, and one thing that I like so much about the e-com model is there's a lot more room for delegation and automation. This friend basically mentioned to me how TikTok is trying to compete with really big platforms and companies like Amazon in order to provide a very profitable platform to sell on. And they're doing very well at it, not only as a company, but for the people that they're allowing onto the platform to sell. So I'm going to keep close ties with him. I'm going to spend any free time that I have learning more about that business model and seeing if it's something that I would want to transition into. But for the time being, for the next 6 months, I'm going all in on solar, virtual solar. And my goal is, like I said, $200,000 to $300,000 estimated commissions. So I used to be very view oriented, and I wanted to just build up my personal brand as quick as I can. But especially for YouTube, I want to create content that I want to create. And I know that there is a specific audience out there that wants to see this type of content and wants to follow me on this journey. And so we'll see how everything goes, but if you like videos like this and you want to see me change my life forever, then stay posted. I'm going to be making videos once a week. They drop on Sunday, and so that's everything I have for today's video. Thank you for watching if you made it this far, and check out my Instagram. It's Kyle_Matson_, and then TikTok is just Kyle Matson. So that's all I got for you today. I'll see you guys in the next video.